There must have been a lot of upset young teenage boys back in the 80s, because if they went to the video store and rented something with a really cool cover and a really cool name, and what they got was a movie like the Icebox Murders, they'd be incredibly disappointed, because this movie is nothing like what the cover depicts. It's another case, no pun intended, of misleading artwork. I just kept putting it off until recently, and I got it for like 25 bucks. Price was right, so I picked it up. It's a Mogul tape. The cover looks cool, so obviously I had to have it. It's not a super rare tape. It's not one of those tapes you only see on eBay maybe twice a year. It pops up a little bit more than that. I got this off of Amazon for 25 bucks. You might see it on there for like 50, 60 bucks. Not that difficult to get, so go for it, get it, but the movie's not that good, which I'm about to tell you right now. The movie is incredibly boring, but first let's look at the cover. Got a decapitated head in a freezer, right next to the groceries, right next to a half-gallon of milk and an egg. This must be one sick killer if he's willing to put body parts next to his friggin' groceries, right? So this makes you want to rent the movie or buy it. I definitely wanted it because of this artwork. Mogul did a good job with this friggin' artwork. It has the title The Icebox Murders, so it's definitely provocative. What you imagine is you got this killer going around hacking up women, putting their body parts into a fridge. Here we have a refrigerator. The cover says Icebox, which is different than, I guess, a regular refrigerator, but that's what you imagine. A bunch of dismembered body parts. Sounds really cool, right? When we look at the tagline, it says, "A blood-curdling chiller. Will she become just another body in the icebox?" So you think that there's this long string of killings of the serial killer running around stalking women, killing them. The back of the box reads, "A young woman runs through long dark corridors trying desperately to escape. Nothing will stop the killer from reaching her neck in a deadly and violent grip." So you expect to see 6 grisly murders, especially with a cover like this, but you don't get that. In fact, the only on-screen or almost on-screen death is in the very beginning when you see this woman being stalked through some corridors. You see some hands, I think, go around her neck, and then it cuts off. That's the end of that. That's the closest thing to a slasher film this movie is. You don't get anything else. There's no blood, no gore, no guts, or any of this stuff, but, we'll talk about that more later. There is an icebox in the movie, but it plays such a minimal role, so there's nothing grisly or gruesome or body parts or severed heads in there. I think there's a reference to the icebox once or twice in some dialogue, but that's it. It plays no significant role, so having a title like The Icebox Murders sounds really cool. Guy chopping up women, putting them in his icebox, but really, you get very little of that. So, like I said earlier in this review, there must have been a lot of upset, angry teenage boys when they would rent a movie like this or The Night After Halloween, expecting this psycho slasher type film, and what they got was a PG-13 Lifetime Women's Network type movie. That's what this is. It's a really lame, boring movie. Not a lot of action, nothing to really keep you interested in the movie. But at least there's an icebox in this movie, because I remember watching the movie Meat Cleaver Massacre. A movie with such a provocative title, has Meat Cleaver and Massacre in the title, but no Meat Cleaver. The Meat Cleaver doesn't even play a role in the movie, doesn't even show up in the movie at all. It's not even spoken about. The movie came out in 1982 under its original title, El Cepo. It's a Spanish movie. El Cepo means the trap, and in the beginning of the movie what we have is still shots of what looks like bear traps. The killer uses in the movie to trap boar. They say he's a hunter, but you're not really a hunter if you're just setting traps. But that's what he does in the movie. We really don't see him catch any animals or anything. These traps play a very insignificant role in the movie because we only see them over the title cards. I'm sure like very few people would even make a connection between the traps and the killer, so it just kind of seems out of place. The title Icebox Murders sounds a lot better than The Trap, but the title The Trap is just as boring as the movie, so it fits it well. I can see why they changed the title to The Icebox Murders. Despite being a Spanish movie, the movie takes place in France, where we got this hooker, actually 2 hookers, and one of the hookers has this client who gives her a lot of money and all this stuff, and he wants to invite her to his villa. So she invites her friend, and the rich guy who invites them there is a doctor. This guy's kind of creepy. He's probably bad acting, but this guy really has like no emotion. He's always wearing glasses, and it's just kind of weird that throughout this whole movie, the girls never really ask him like, why are you wearing glasses? I mean, she does mention it in the beginning. They mention it in the beginning of the movie when the prostitute says, "I want to see your eyes," when he kind of invites her to get married in the future or something, and he says, "Oh, my eyes are nothing beautiful," or I mean, that's not good enough a reason. If you're gonna go with this stranger down to southern France in this very rural area, in pretty much farmland, in this mansion, wouldn't you want to know who this guy is? What he looks like, at least? She kind of just like brushes it off like no big deal if I don't see his eyes. But throughout the whole movie, he's wearing the glasses until his identity is revealed. They seem kind of bored at the mansion, just hanging around there. And that's really most of the movie, them just hanging around this mansion, talking about stupid crap that has no relevance to the movie. Fourth character is introduced to the movie. His name is John. He's kind of like a caretaker. The girls become friends with him. He might be a little slow in the head, but he's kind of cute and innocent, so I guess they kind of make friends with him. So they invite him out to the disco, and she meets this guy at the club named Michelle. We get back, she's talking to her other friend. She says how she's in love with him and how she would love to marry him, and I'm thinking, you just met him. I mean, when they get home from the disco, two girls go up to their room. The caretaker, John, he gets beat pretty badly by the doctor, and you automatically think there's some kind of weird relationship here. Later you find out that this guy, John, he tells the girls that he was actually a mental patient of the doctor at one point, and the doctor invited him to be a servant at his mansion, and that's why he's there. So that kind of explains why the guy's a little slow and innocent and kind of kooky. Another irrelevant scene to the plot of the story. There's a scene where there's lightning and thunder outside late at night. This guy has a phobia, an intense phobia of lightning. But in the movie, he's like standing by the window crying. And I'm thinking to myself, you're terrified of lightning and thunder. You're traumatized by it. Why are you by the window staring at it, crying outside the window? If I was terrified of lightning or thunder, where would I go? I would go as far away from the window as possible, maybe hide in the basement, somewhere where I wouldn't hear the thunder or see the lightning. I wouldn't go by the window, hang out by the window and cry like a freaking baby. So the girls have to carry him back to his room and give him medication to calm him down. At one point in the movie, Sylvia, other girl's friend, she wakes up to a sound, and she looks out the window when she sees John and the doctor carrying out a body out of the car. Immediately, this is where the story seems to almost get interesting, but it doesn't. But that's the first initial hint that there might be bodies or this guy's a killer. I mean, it took 45 minutes into the movie for something like this to happen. 45 minutes for anything to happen, because in 45 minutes, nothing happens. What we had was the two girls going into this mansion, going to a disco club for 5 minutes, and they're talking about crap with John. That's the entire first 45 minutes. And then you see them, John and the doctor, take out a body from the trunk, and you're thinking, okay, finally, maybe something's going to happen here. I actually had to watch this movie in 2 parts. The movie is so incredibly boring that I could not sit through it the first time. It was putting me to sleep. It's like Ambien. It's also around this time where the two girls try to take a boat out. I think maybe they're escaping, but the plot is not really written well, like their whole little scheme to escape, because early in the movie they were just fine. They looked inside the freezer and there was no bodies there, so there was no reason for them to be worried. But just out of the blue, they seem worried and want to take this boat to escape from this mansion or whatever. They go to take the boat, but John is there, and John takes them for a ride. John starts to get really creepy on the boat, aside of John that we haven't seen before. He pulls out a camera from wherever, and he tells them he wants to take pictures of them, tells them to start stripping when he's about to take some pictures, and the girls are about to take their clothes, which, by the way, no nudity in this movie, so don't get excited. Like I said, it's like a PG-13 type movie. When he's about to take the pictures, he's shot out of nowhere, falls into the water, and the girls are just like baffled, like what the hell just happened. No bullet holes in the body, no blood, just falls into the water, very boring. All we hear is a gunshot, we don't know what happened. It's the middle of the night, and Sylvia, or Sylvie I think her name actually is in the movie, not Sylvia. Sylvie leaves, wanders around during the night, I guess trying to figure out what this guy is doing. Because she has some suspicions, of course. She goes to a work shed, looks in the window, and she sees him pull out like a severed head. Not gory, no blood, nothing. Just like a human head. It's like an actual head. They just prop a head through a table. It looks kind of silly and hokey. And she sees the head through the window, and she immediately screams. The doctor sees her. You got this guy with a severed head, so he's probably the killer, or somebody who's not scared of death. Wouldn't he kill you? Maybe it's just like an instinct or an impulse to scream, but I mean, if I was scared for my life, I wouldn't scream. She goes running, he captures her, puts her into this dungeon or cell, and that's the end we see of her. Because she's screaming, Chantal wakes up, and that's the end, until the next morning. And the next morning, the doctor tells Chantel that Sylvie wanted to go back home, and he drove her to the airport or the train station or whatever. But this doesn't make sense, because remember, Chantel woke up because she heard Sylvie screaming. Whatever happened with that? After she heard the screaming in the night, did she go downstairs? Did she look for Sylvie? Did she explore? Did she ask the doctor, did you hear that screaming? Where's Sylvie? I heard Sylvie screaming. No. When she wakes up in the middle of the night and hears Sylvie screaming, I guess she went back to sleep, because in the morning she doesn't recall the screaming at all, as she heard. Bad editing, I guess. Maybe there's a scene missing in this movie, but it just doesn't seem to make sense. At the end of the movie, finally, this girl, Chantel, is trying to run for her life, trying to escape this place. Trying to escape the doctor. She jumps into a car. It's this guy, Michel, and he keeps like popping out of nowhere. It's like early in the movie, which I forgot to tell you, is that when Sylvie is being killed, she bumps into Michel like right in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night. No questions asked. I mean, it's kind of weird. It's like, what are you doing here in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night? And she had only met this guy once at the disco. She didn't think it's kind of bizarre and weird. But when Chantel is trying to escape, and at this point she's trying to escape because she found the dead bodies. No blood. Nothing. She finds like a body in a corner. She sees like a head that's supposed to have been mounted, like stuffed or whatever, because there are some references early in the movie where the doctor likes to stuff animals because he's a hunter or whatever. She sees the few bodies, runs out. She jumps into a passing car. It's this guy, Michel. And then it occurs to her, Michel's the doctor. Dun dun dun. It's one of those kind of moments. When she notices this, she jumps out of the car. She tries to run. While she's running, there's this weird scene where she just like stops in the woods or wherever she is. She just stops right there, crying. And I'm thinking, run, run, he's coming. You could outrun this guy. She just stands there terrified and lets him put his hands around her neck to strangle her. I'm thinking, what an idiot. Maybe she should die for being such a stupid moron. Run for your life. Are you just tired and you don't want to run anymore? John pops out of nowhere. He shoots the doctor. The doctor falls. He thinks that Chantel's going to run to him. Thank you, you saved me. But I guess in the back of her head she remembered, this guy's a real freak because he tried to take naked pictures of me on the boat. I better jump in the next passing car. And that's what she does. She jumps in the next passing car, and John is left there in the road, kind of happy that she got away, like he has a smile on his face. That's the end of the movie. No ending credits, it just says the end. That's the entire movie. It's incredibly boring. I don't know if hopefully I didn't make it sound more exciting than it actually is, because this is a pretty boring movie. Like I said, no blood, no guts, nothing like that. Just a very boring PG-13 type TV movie. The kind of movie you would expect to see in the middle of the night on like a public access channel. Something really boring like that. There was actually, a while ago, when I first started to hunt for these movies, like 6-7 years ago, I vaguely remember reading something where the director of this movie released a DVD of this movie independently or something like that. I don't really know the status of that. It's just something I heard about. And then, I know recently, right now probably still, there's this one guy who's selling bootlegs of this movie. Really crappy bootlegs. He says he has the rights to release the movie on DVD. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I don't care. This movie is not worth buying as a bootleg to watch. This movie is a bore fest. Nothing really happens. Not a slasher movie. Not even really a horror movie. More like a thriller. But a boring thriller. Is that possible? A boring thriller? I'm not even sure. Seems kind of like an oxymoron. But that's exactly what this movie is. Stay away from it. Unless you're a VHS collector, collect it because it's Mogul Video. Mogul Video has some really interesting cover arts. One thing is accurate about this cover is that you got those three drawn characters. The middle is obviously John, and the two girls are Sylvie and Chantel in the movie. So I guess they got that right, but the whole head in an icebox thing, I guess the movie was so boring, even the artist had to make it look cooler. If I rented this, I'd be so upset in the 80s. I'd go to the video store and say, what are you renting me? This is false advertising. How could you rent me this movie? It's nothing like what the cover or the back of the box suggests. It's not really a slasher movie. I wonder if anyone ever got their money back or ever got a credit towards another movie. I'm sure that has to have happened a couple times because of movies like this. So that's pretty much the Icebox Murders. This has been Paul. Keep a lookout for the new website that we are going to put up, me and my friend. It's going to be pretty cool. A lot of cool information, a lot of stuff for the VHS collector. Hopefully the website itself will revolutionize the collecting community. So keep a lookout for that. And this has been Paul once again. And good night, guys.